All right, hi everybody. John Meadows here, and I'm with Chris Zaino. Hopefully you've watched our videos. We've been doing a lot of videos lately. Here's a topic for you. Should I get in shape every year? Should I get ripped? He's a lot leaner than I am. Should I get shredded and ripped every year? So I'll give you my opinion, but I want to hear your opinion.
Okay, so I've been working with John for 5 years, and I think the last show I did was 2016, right? The Charlotte Pro, right? And but I enjoy the process of dieting down and leaning up, and it just because it spreads into every other area of my life. I like the cardio, I like the discipline, my mindset, everything really gets there, and plus I like seeing, getting in shape. It just there's a great confidence about it. And every year, John, October 1st to November 17th. That's our contest day, and John brings me down. Plus, there's things we could experiment with that, if you have a deadline of a show, you can. It's been wonderful. So I really enjoyed it. So I personally love having that sequence of taking a little bit of. It's like almost taking a little bit of break at the end of the year, having a slight weight gain part, and around May you start bringing me down and down and down, and that's where we're at this part. And it's we're watching this. So I personally love it, enjoy it. I want to hear, and we made consistent gains.
Yeah,
Big time.
One of the things you always hear is stop dieting down. You got a permabulk to put on muscle, but you put on a lot of muscle in the last few years. Mm-hmm. I mean, you were a middleweight when we started working together.
164.
He was in the 160 pound range, and now he's really hard as a rock today at over 200. So the first myth we can dispel is that you will never gain any muscle if you just have this diet time. So I have a lot of thoughts on that, and probably some of us bro science. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yes, but how about this? We won't call it. We'll call it experience.
So here's what my experience tells me. Yeah. Sometimes when people have fat on their body, I feel like the longer it sits there, the harder it is to get off. Now, you can laugh at me all you want, but that is what I see. I see people that when they've never dieted, sometimes it's really, really hard to get them lean. Whereas if they've dieted and gotten leaner, it's not hard for me to help you get lean because we know what we have to do. Mm-hmm. But let's say you went for 5 years and gained a bunch of weight, then would it be just as easy? Maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. But what I see is sometimes I encourage people to I've got several people on my roster right now that we're dieting and they have no show. Let's just get in shape, get the fat off your body so it's not just sitting there. Now, I realize you can scientifically challenge me on that, and that's fine, but I'm just telling you what I see. The other thing I would say is there's a lot of health benefits to getting leaner, right? I mean, if you look at basic things like insulin sensitivity, usually when you're leaner, you have better insulin sensitivity. Usually when you're fatter, you're more inflamed in general. These are just basic truths that are backed by science. You have these rebound phases that, what's interesting was we never really had these rebound phases in like the 90s or the 80s when I started. It was, you just ate, and then when you dieted for a show, and then you took a year or two off or whatever the plan was, but there was never any dieting unless there was a show.
Right.
That is a relatively new concept, to diet when there's not even a show in order to get a rebound. And I think there is something to this rebound where you diet down, you get leaner, and then all of a sudden you jam your nutrients up, you're more insulin sensitive, and a lot of really positive things happen in terms of gaining muscle. And one of the benefits of being more insulin sensitive is just you can gain muscle more easily. So I think there's some things that I feel like I don't really have a lot of science to back it, which is the longer the fat stays on you, the harder it is to get off. And then I have some things that I think you could probably find some pretty easy scientific backing that you're going to be healthier. Probably if you get blood work done, you're probably going to have a better panel. Your lipid panel is probably going to be better. Your blood pressure will probably be better. You're not carrying around a lot of weight. There's a lot of benefits to it as well, health-wise. And then you're in sometimes a position to where you can actually improve insulin sensitivity and your ability to actually rebound and grow. So those are kind of the initial thoughts off the top of my head.
And a couple of things, and I'll just tell you from my experience working with John, what I've noticed, John, is even when we were gaining weight, there would come a time where something switched. And I don't know if it was the insulin sensitivity went down, where, it just started, like bad weight started packing on.
Right.
Like carbs wouldn't process in me. the way they normally would, and then you would see it, and then you would do maybe a month mini diet.
Yeah.
Where that would be counterintuitive. Like, well, wait a second, I'm trying to gain. Let's just push more calories. No, John would be like, we're going to mini diet, because that's what it did. It got my insulin sensitivity under control, and then we come back up again. So explain to when you see that, because again, it's something working with a lot of people. What happened? Like the body just switches where it just starts. Is it an insulin sensitivity?
Here's what I think happens. So it's not even necessarily a carb issue. It's a calorie issue. Mm-hmm. And when you are over consuming calories, so it's not as easy as if I eat 2,000 calories over my maintenance, I'll be able to gain muscle a lot faster than if I eat 1,000 calories. Your body can only gain muscle so fast. So what happens is people overeat, and your pancreas, when your blood sugar goes up, your pancreas releases insulin to bring your blood sugar back down. On your cells, your muscle cells, you have insulin receptors. So just picture like a lock. And then when you eat, say, carbohydrates, for example, your blood sugar goes up and your pancreas produces insulin. So insulin is then in your blood. And think of that as a key. So you've got the key, the insulin floating around your blood. You've got the lock, that's the insulin receptor that's on the cell membrane. The key goes into the lock and it opens it up, and that allows for your blood sugar to go down, glucose goes in your muscle cell. And that mechanism is really important because amino acids go in. Like there's a lot of things that go in your muscle cell, like if you take creatine, amino acids, glucose, all these things that go in your muscle cell and they fuel you. It turns into glycogen, gives you energy. Amino acids so protein synthesis increases. So you got all these physiological things that happen. Now what happens is if you're jamming tons of calories all the time, your insulin receptors get a little dulled. They're like, man, this guy's working me to death. The insulin receptor closes up shop. Your body responds to that, and it actually produces more insulin receptors, and you actually have these glucose transporters that are carrier proteins inside of the cell that your body produces more of those. So you have these mechanisms taking place for your body to try to compensate, but ultimately it can't. So your insulin receptors start to go, I'm going to take a break. So then where does the blood sugar go? So then your blood sugar stays a little bit more elevated, and your body says, man, I got to get this guy's blood sugar down. So I'm going to make even more insulin. So you start to see people's fasting insulin levels go up. They have high insulin levels when they haven't even eaten. That's a good sign right there that you got some dysfunction happening. So the ability to shuttle nutrients into the muscle cell starts getting worse. It actually shuttles into fat cells. But the ability to shuttle nutrients into a muscle cell gets worse. And you'll hear people say, I don't get my pumps aren't as good anymore.
Yeah, I always write me, how's your pump? Good or not, it's feeling flat, don't feel, I don't feel even a contraction.
But you're not even eating less, you're actually eating more.
Yeah.
So you're eating more, you have more nutrients in your body, but your pump is worse. So, that happens, and I feel like when you diet, you can kind of restore those things. The quickest way to restore insulin sensitivity is simply to eat less. That's the quickest way to do it. I could explain to you why, but that's the quickest way. And so there are a lot of benefits. But to your point earlier, and this, I think we can wrap it up with this. You know how you were talking about you got to a certain point where it just felt like the weight was bad weight?
Yeah.
And that's what happens. You get to a certain weight where all you're gaining is fat. Fat is not muscle. And, the more fat you get, the gain, then the more inflamed your body gets, the worse your insulin sensitivity gets. And people think that, well, that's what I need to gain muscle. No, it's not. You don't need to get fat to gain muscle. So I think I could summarize it by saying, I think it is good to get in shape every once in a while. Once a year is great, maybe twice a year, but it is good. It's good. You don't want the fat sitting around your body. And then also the little additive thing to your point, which is when you are gaining weight, there's going to be a point where it does you no good. Like there's a point where it's going to be no good. And that's when I think it's good to implement something with lower calories to kind of bring that back in place.
Right. So there's your answer.
All right. Thank you.